My name is Emma, and I am 28 years old. For 6 years, I poured every ounce of my energy into building a career that would make me proud. I saved every bonus, every raise, every extra dollar, until I could finally afford the car I had dreamed about since college. A beautiful Range Rover Sport Santorini Black, worth about $150,000. It was more than a car to me. It was proof that I had made it on my own terms. When I drove it home to Portland for Thanksgiving, I never imagined that my own parents would hand the keys to my younger sister. And by morning, everything I had worked for was destroyed. Before we dive into this story, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe that hard work deserves respect, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a modest neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. Our house was a 2-story colonial with a small yard and a garage that always seemed too cluttered. My father, Richard, is 58 years old and works as a manager at an insurance company downtown. He has always been the type of man who avoids conflict at all costs, preferring to let my mother take the lead on family decisions. My mother, Diane, is 55 and works part-time as an accountant for a local firm. She has a strong personality and an even stronger opinion about how things should be done in our family. From as far back as I can remember, I was the responsible one, the oldest daughter who was expected to set an example to achieve to make my parents proud without requiring much from them in return. I learned early that independence was not just encouraged for me, but required. When I wanted new clothes for school, I babysat the neighbors' kids. When I needed a car at 16, I worked weekends at a coffee shop until I could afford a beat-up Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it. I never complained because I believed that earning things myself made them more meaningful. I threw myself into academics with a determination that surprised even my teachers. I graduated high school with honors and earned a scholarship to the University of Washington, where I studied computer science. Those 4 years were grueling. I worked part-time jobs while maintaining a full course load, often surviving on 4 hours of sleep and too much caffeine. But when I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, I knew every sacrifice had been worth it. After graduation, I landed a position at a major tech company in Seattle. I started as a junior developer and worked my way up to senior software engineer within 5 years. My salary grew substantially, and for the first time in my life, I had disposable income. Real money that I could save or spend without worrying about making rent. But instead of splurging on vacations or designer clothes, I set a goal. I wanted to buy my dream car with cash. No loans, no payments, just pure ownership of something beautiful that represented my success. My younger sister Brooke is 24 years old, and her life has taken a very different path. She was born when I was 4, and from the moment she arrived, something shifted in our household. Brooke was the baby, the last child, and my parents treated her accordingly. Where I was pushed to excel, Brooke was coddled. Where I faced consequences for my mistakes, Brooke received endless second chances. I do not say this with bitterness, at least not anymore. These are simply facts that shaped our family dynamic for decades. Brooke struggled in school not because she lacked intelligence, but because she never had to try. If she failed a test, my mother would call the teacher to negotiate a retake. If she got in trouble for skipping class, my father would make excuses about her being sensitive or misunderstood. Brooke enrolled in college after high school, but dropped out halfway through her sophomore year. She said the classes were boring, and she wanted to find her passion. My parents supported this decision, completely continuing to pay for her apartment and expenses while she figured things out. She tried being a bartender for a few months, then worked in retail sales, then decided she wanted to be a social media influencer. None of these ventures lasted more than a few months, and eventually she moved back into my parents' house, where she has been living rent-free ever since. What bothered me most was not that my parents helped Brooke. I understood that some people need more support than others. What bothered me was the stark contrast in how we were treated. When I was in college, I worked 30 hours a week while taking 18 credits per semester. My parents told me it would build character. When Brooke dropped out, they said she needed time to discover herself. When I bought my first car with my own money at 16, they said it would teach me responsibility. When Brooke turned 18, they bought her a brand new Volkswagen Jetta as a graduation gift. Brooke totaled that Jetta within a year. She rear-ended someone while texting and driving, and the car was declared a total loss. My parents were upset, But they bought her another car 6 months later, a Honda Accord that she drove for 2 years before backing it into a concrete pillar in a parking garage. That car was also severely damaged, though, not totaled. My parents paid for the repairs without making Brooke contribute a single dollar. By the time I turned 28, I had learned to accept that my parents would never treat us equally. I loved them, and I loved Brooke despite everything, but I had built emotional walls to protect myself. I visited home rarely, usually just for major holidays, and I kept our conversations surface level. It was easier that way. Less painful than constantly hoping things would change. Then I bought the Range Rover. It was a 2024 Range Rover Sport in Santorini black with cream leather interior. The moment I saw it at the dealership, I knew it was the one. I had saved $160,000 over 6 years living frugally in a small apartment while my colleagues rented luxury condos. The day I drove it off the lot, I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, just running my hands over the steering wheel. This car was mine, truly, completely mine. It represented every late night at the office, every weekend I spent working, instead of relaxing every sacrifice I had made to build a life I could be proud of. I had owned the car for only 3 months when Thanksgiving arrived. I had not been home to Portland in almost 2 years because work had been demanding, and if I am honest, because going home always left me feeling emotionally drained. But this year felt different. I was in a good place professionally and personally. I thought maybe enough time had passed that things would be better. I was so incredibly wrong. The drive from Seattle to Portland takes about 3 hours if traffic cooperates. I left early on the Wednesday morning before Thanksgiving, wanting to arrive with plenty of time to settle in before the holiday chaos began. The weather was gray and drizzly, typical for late November in the Pacific Northwest, but my Range Rover handled the wet roads beautifully. I had the heated seats on and my favorite playlist streaming through the premium sound system. For those 3 hours, I felt genuinely happy and optimistic about the visit ahead. I had spent considerable time selecting gifts for everyone. For my mother, I bought a designer handbag from a boutique in downtown Seattle, the kind she would admire in magazines, but never buy for herself. For my father, I chose a bottle of premium whiskey from a local distillery he had mentioned wanting to try. And for Brooke, despite everything, I picked out a beautiful cashmere jacket in her favorite color. I wanted this visit to be different. I wanted to approach my family with an open heart and see if we could build something better. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, I noticed both of them standing on the front porch. My mother had her arms crossed, and my father stood slightly behind her with his hands in his pockets. As I stepped out of the car, I watched their eyes travel from my face to the Range Rover and back again. The shift in their expressions was subtle, but unmistakable. My mother was the first to speak. "Well, look at what you drove up in. That must have cost a fortune, Emma." I smiled, trying to keep the mood light. "I saved for a long time for this car. I am really proud of it." She nodded slowly, her lips pressed into a thin line. Must be nice to have that kind of money to spend on a car. Before I could respond, Brooke appeared in the doorway behind my parents. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled into a messy bun. But the moment her eyes landed on my Range Rover, her entire demeanor changed. Her posture straightened, and she walked past my parents to circle the vehicle, slowly running her fingers along the polished black exterior. "Oh my God, Emma, this is incredible. What is this, a Range Rover Sport? This is literally my dream car." I felt a flicker of unease, but pushed it aside. "Thanks, Brooke. It took me a while to save up for it." She completed her circle and stopped directly in front of me, her eyes bright with excitement. "Can I drive it?" "Just around the block. I promise I will be super careful." I hesitated, searching for the right words. "I am sorry, but I would rather not let anyone else drive it right now. The insurance only covers me as the driver, and it is still brand new. I have not even hit 5,000 miles yet." Brooke's expression shifted instantly from excited to annoyed. "Seriously, I am your sister, not some random stranger. You cannot let me drive it one time." My mother stepped forward, placing a hand on Brooke's shoulder, while looking at me with barely concealed disapproval. "Emma, it is just a car. Brooke is family. Would it really hurt to let her take it for a quick spin?" I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar knot forming in my stomach. "Mom, I appreciate that, but this is my decision. I am not comfortable with anyone else driving it right now." The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Brooke rolled her eyes dramatically and walked back inside without another word. My mother shook her head slightly, as if I had disappointed her deeply, then followed Brooke into the house. Only my father remained on the porch, and he offered me a weak smile before grabbing one of my bags and heading inside. That first evening should have been a warning sign of what was to come. We sat down for dinner around 6 o'clock. My mother had prepared pot roast with vegetables, a meal that had been a family staple since my childhood. The conversation stayed light for the first half hour. My father asked about my job, and I shared some details about a project I was leading. My mother talked about her book club and the neighborhood gossip. It almost felt normal. Then the topic shifted to Brooke. My mother's entire demeanor changed when she started talking about my sister. Brooke has been doing so well lately. She has been building her online presence and gaining followers every day. Tell Emma about your content, sweetheart. Brooke, who had been quiet and sullen since the incident with the car, perked up slightly. I am working on becoming an influencer. I post lifestyle content, fashion, that kind of thing. I have almost 2,000 followers on Instagram now. 2,000 followers was not exactly a successful influencer career, but I kept that thought to myself. That sounds interesting. I hope it works out for you, my mother beamed. She is going to be big someday. Not everyone follows the traditional path like you did, Emma. Some people are meant for creative careers. I nodded, taking a bite of pot roast to avoid responding. I had heard variations of this speech countless times. Brooke was special. Brooke was creative. Brooke just needed time. Meanwhile, my achievements were either ignored or minimized. When I got promoted, my mother asked if the extra hours would affect my dating life. When I bought my apartment, she wondered if I was being too focused on material things, but Brooke posting selfies was a promising career move. After dinner, I helped my mother clean up while Brooke disappeared upstairs. As I was loading dishes into the dishwasher, I glanced out the window and noticed the garage door was open. I could see Brooke sitting in my Range Rover, her phone pressed to her ear. My heart rate spiked. I dried my hands quickly and walked outside to the garage. Brooke was in the driver's seat, taking photos of herself with the steering wheel visible in the background. When she saw me approaching, she ended her phone call abruptly. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, despite the anger building inside me. "Relax, I was just taking some pictures. I am not hurting anything." "Brooke, I asked you not to use my car. This includes sitting in it and taking photos to post online." She scoffed, pushing the door open and stepping out. "You are so uptight, Emma. It is not like I was going to drive it. I just wanted some content. My followers would love to see this car. Your followers do not need to see my car. Please respect my boundaries." Boundaries. She spat the word like it was something distasteful. "You have always been like this. You have always thought you were better than me because you make more money and have nicer things. But you cannot even share with your own family." I stood there stunned by the venom in her words. This was about so much more than the car, and we both knew it. But I was not going to have that conversation in the garage while she tried to manipulate me into feeling guilty. "I would appreciate it if you would stay out of my car," I said quietly, then turned and walked back into the house. That night, as I lay in my childhood bedroom, I heard a soft knock on my door. It was Brooke, her expression softer than it had been earlier. "Emma, can we talk?" I sat up in bed. "Sure, come in." She perched on the edge of my desk chair, picking at her cuticles nervously. "So I have this party tomorrow night. A bunch of my friends are getting together, and I was really hoping to make a good impression. Driving up in your Range Rover would be amazing." "Brooke, I already told you no." Her soft expression hardened. "Why do you have to be so difficult? It is one night. I would fill up the tank. I would be super careful. What is the big deal?" "The big deal is that it is my car," and I said no. "The insurance does not cover other drivers, and you have had accidents before. I am not comfortable with it." Her face twisted with anger. "Those accidents were not my fault. The first one, that guy stopped suddenly. The second one, the pillar was in a blind spot. You are just using those as excuses because you do not want to share anything with me." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I am sorry you feel that way, but my answer is still no." Brooke stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You are so selfish, Emma. You always have been. You have everything, and I have nothing, and you cannot even lend me your car for one night." She paused at the door, her voice dropping to something colder. "Whatever. I should have known you would never help me." She left, slamming the door behind her. I lay in bed for a long time after that, staring at the ceiling. A heavy feeling settled in my chest, a mixture of anger and sadness, and something that felt uncomfortably like guilt. I knew I had done nothing wrong. The car was mine, and I had every right to decide who drove it. But growing up in this family had conditioned me to feel responsible for Brooke's happiness even when her demands were unreasonable. Before I finally fell asleep, I took my car keys from my purse and tucked them securely in my nightstand drawer, just in case. I woke up on Thanksgiving morning to the smell of turkey already roasting in the oven. My mother had started preparing the feast before dawn, as she did every year. When I came downstairs at 7:30, she was already elbow-deep in stuffing ingredients while giving instructions to my father, who stood helplessly holding a potato peeler. "There is my early bird," my mother said when she saw me. "Good. I need help with the pies." "Where is Brooke?" I asked, rolling up my sleeves and washing my hands at the kitchen sink. "Still sleeping. You know how she is in the mornings. Let her rest." Of course, Brooke could sleep until noon, while I helped prepare a meal for 15 people, and no one would say a word about it. But if I had slept late, my mother would have made pointed comments about laziness for the rest of the day. I pushed the thought aside and focused on measuring flour for the pie crusts. By 11 o'clock, the house was filled with the aroma of roasting turkey, fresh bread, and cinnamon from the pumpkin pies cooling on the counter. My father had set up extra folding tables in the dining room to accommodate the extended family. I had showered and changed into a nice autumn-colored dress I had brought specifically for the occasion. Brooke finally emerged around 11:30, yawning and shuffling into the kitchen in her bathrobe. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down at the breakfast bar, scrolling through her phone without acknowledging the hours of work my mother and I had already done. "Sweetheart, the family will be here in an hour," my mother said gently. "Maybe you should start getting ready." "Yeah, in a minute." Brooke did not look up from her screen. I bit my tongue and continued arranging the vegetable tray. There was no point in saying anything. It would only cause conflict, and I had promised myself I would get through this holiday without fighting. The relatives began arriving around 1 o'clock. My Aunt Ruth, my mother's younger sister, came with her husband Greg and their 2 teenage children. My grandparents on my mother's side drove up from their retirement community an hour south of Portland. A few cousins from my father's side joined as well, making the house feel crowded and chaotic in the way large family gatherings always do. Aunt Ruth was the first to notice my car in the driveway. "Whose Range Rover is that?" she asked, peering out the living room window. "That is a beautiful vehicle. That is Emma's." My father said, a note of pride in his voice that caught me off guard. "She bought it herself." Aunt Ruth turned to me with wide eyes. "You bought that on your own, Emma? That is incredible. You must be doing so well at your job." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "Thank you, Aunt Ruth. I saved for a long time to get it." "You should be very proud of her, Diane," Aunt Ruth said to my mother. "Not many young people have that kind of financial discipline these days." My mother's smile was tight-forced. "Yes, well, Emma has always been focused on material things." She cleared her throat and changed the subject. "Speaking of success, Brooke has been building quite the following on social media. Tell everyone about your content, Brooke." And just like that, the spotlight shifted. Brooke launched into a description of her influencer aspirations while I stood there, the brief moment of recognition already evaporating. I caught my father's eye across the room, and he gave me a small apologetic shrug. It was the same dynamic as always. Any attention I received had to be immediately redirected to Brooke. The meal itself was delicious as my mother's Thanksgiving dinners always were. We crowded around the extended tables, passing dishes of turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce. Conversation flowed easily among the relatives, touching on topics from politics to sports to family updates. For a while, I almost forgot the tension simmering beneath the surface. After we finished eating, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my way back, I decided to check on my car, a habit I had developed since Brooke had expressed so much interest in it. I walked through the kitchen to the door that led to the garage and froze. The garage light was on, and Brooke was sitting in my Range Rover again. This time, she was in the back seat, posing for selfies with the cream leather interior visible behind her. She had her phone propped up and was recording something, probably content for her social media. "Brooke." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "What are you doing?" She jumped, clearly startled, then quickly composed herself. "God, Emma, you scared me. I was just shooting some content. This car photographs amazingly. I asked you not to do this. Twice now. Please get out of my car." She rolled her eyes dramatically, gathering her phone and stepping out. "You act like I'm going to steal it or something. It is just pictures. It is about respecting my wishes. I do not want you in my car without my permission." "Why is that so hard to understand?" Brooke brushed past me, pausing in the doorway. "You know what, Emma? One day you are going to look back and realize that you cared more about your things than about your relationships. And by then, it will be too late. She disappeared back into the house, leaving me standing alone in the garage. My hands were shaking slightly, and I took several deep breaths to calm myself down. I walked over to my car and checked every inch of it, making sure nothing was damaged or out of place. Everything looked fine, but the violation of my boundaries left me feeling exposed and vulnerable. When I went back inside, my mother was waiting for me in the hallway. "Emma, I heard what happened. Do you not think you are overreacting a little? Brooke just wanted some pictures." She was not hurting anything. "Mom, I have asked her multiple times to stay out of my car. She keeps ignoring me." "Because your request is unreasonable. She is your sister. You should be happy to let her enjoy nice things, since she does not have them herself." I stared at my mother, searching for words. "That is not the point. Then what is the point? To remind Brooke that you have more money than she does to make her feel bad about herself? No. The point is that I have set a boundary and I expect it to be respected. That is all." My mother shook her head slowly. "Sometimes I do not understand you at all, Emma. You have become so cold." She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the hallway with tears stinging my eyes. Cold. The word echoed in my mind. I was not cold. I was tired. Tired of being the scapegoat. Tired of being criticized for having boundaries. Tired of a family that saw my success as something to resent rather than celebrate. That evening, after most of the relatives had gone home, I found my father alone in his study. He was sitting in his leather armchair, swirling whiskey in a glass, lost in thought. "Dad, can we talk?" He looked up and gestured to the chair across from him. "Of course. Sit down." I settled into the chair, trying to organize my thoughts. I am worried about what is happening with Brooke in the car. She keeps trying to use it, even though I have said no, and Mom and she are making me feel like I am the problem. He sighed heavily. "I know. I have noticed. Your mother. She has always been protective of Brooke. You know how it is. But what about protecting me? I am your daughter too. Does not it matter that they are constantly crossing my boundaries?" He took a long sip of whiskey before responding. "Emma, I understand where you are coming from. I do. But Brooke, she does not have what you have. Maybe it would not hurt to let her drive the car just once to feel what it is like." I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me. "Dad, she has totaled one car and damaged another. Both times she was at fault. My insurance does not cover other drivers. If something happens, I am the one who loses." "I will talk to her," he said finally. "I will tell her to leave the car alone. But try to be patient with your mother. She just wants both of her daughters to be happy." I nodded, though. I did not feel reassured. I went up to my room early that night, pleading a headache. Before I fell asleep, I double-checked that my car keys were still secure in my nightstand drawer. They were exactly where I had left them. Little did I know it would not matter. I woke up on Friday morning feeling cautiously optimistic. The tension from the previous days was behind us, and I had plans to meet up with my old friend Megan for Black Friday shopping. We had been close in high school, but lost touch over the years, reconnecting recently through social media. She still lived in Portland and was excited to catch up over coffee and browse some sales. When I came downstairs around 8 in the morning, my mother was sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. My father was making eggs on the stove. Brooke was nowhere to be seen. "Good morning," my mother said, her tone notably warmer than it had been the day before. "Did you sleep well?" "I did, thank you. I am meeting Megan this morning. We are going to check out some of the sales." "That sounds nice." My mother smiled, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe things might actually be okay. I ate breakfast quickly, eager to get out of the house and enjoy some normalcy with an old friend. Before I left, I went upstairs to grab my purse and car keys. I reached into the nightstand drawer and found the keys exactly where I had left them. Reassured, I headed out. Megan was waiting for me at a coffee shop downtown. She had not changed much since high school, still petite with bright red hair and an infectious laugh. We hugged like we had not seen each other in a decade, which was true. "Oh my God, Emma, look at you," she exclaimed, holding me at arm's length to examine me. "You look amazing. And I saw your car in the parking lot. A Range Rover. You are killing it." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in days. "Thank you. It is really good to see you, Megan. I have missed this." We spent the morning browsing stores and catching up on each other's lives. Megan had become a physical therapist and was engaged to her college sweetheart. She wanted to hear all about my career in tech and my life in Seattle. For a few hours, I forgot about the drama waiting for me at my parents' house. Around noon, we stopped for lunch at a small Italian restaurant. Over pasta, Megan asked how things were going with my family. I hesitated before answering. It is complicated. Brooke keeps wanting to borrow my car, and when I say no, everyone treats me like I am being unreasonable. Megan frowned. That is not unreasonable at all. It is your car. Why would you let someone else drive a brand new Range Rover? Thank you. I appreciate that. But my family sees it differently. To them, I am being selfish for not sharing. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Do not let them get in your head, Emma. You worked hard for what you have. You do not owe anyone access to your things, even if they are family. Her words stayed with me as we continued shopping that afternoon. By the time we said goodbye around 5 o'clock, I felt stronger, more confident in my decisions. I was not the villain my family was making me out to be. I was simply a woman who had earned what she had and wanted to protect it. I drove back to my parents' house as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. When I walked through the front door, the atmosphere felt different somehow, charged. My mother was in the living room wringing her hands. My father sat on the couch with a troubled expression. What is going on? I asked, setting my purse on the entry table. My parents exchanged a look that sent a chill down my spine. Brooke needs to borrow a car tonight, my mother said carefully. She has a party with her friends. Okay, I kept my voice neutral. And our car is at the shop. The electrical system is being repaired. My father spoke slowly, as if approaching a dangerous animal. It will not be ready until Monday. I felt my stomach tighten. So call her an Uber. Sweetie, my mother stepped closer, her voice taking on that pleading tone I knew too well. The party is outside the city. An Uber would cost a fortune. Can you please just this once let Brooke borrow your car? No. The word hung in the air like a slap. Emma, be reasonable, my father said. I am being reasonable. I have said no multiple times. My insurance does not cover other drivers. Brooke has a history of accidents. This is not negotiable. My mother's expression hardened. This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. You care more about that car than you do about your own sister. That is not fair, and you know it. Brooke chose that moment to descend the stairs. She was dressed up for her party, her hair styled, her makeup done. She looked genuinely beautiful, which somehow made this whole situation worse. Is she going to let me borrow it? Brooke asked my mother. No, I answered before my mother could speak. I am sorry, Brooke, but no. Brooke's face crumpled. Why do you hate me so much? I do not hate you. I just do not want anyone else driving my car. It is not personal. It feels pretty personal, she shot back. My father stood up. Emma, can we speak privately in my office? I followed him, dreading what was coming. Once we were behind closed doors, he turned to face me. I understand your position, he began, but I am asking you as your father to reconsider. Brooke has been struggling lately. This party is important to her. She wants to impress her friends. By driving my car, he spread his hands. Would it really be so terrible just for one night? Dad, she has damaged 2 cars already. Those were accidents. She has learned from them. I shook my head. I am sorry. I love you and I love Brooke. But my answer is no. He stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, it is your car, but I think you are making a mistake. I left his office feeling sick to my stomach. I hated disappointing my father, hated being the source of family conflict. But I knew I was right. Letting Brooke drive my car was a risk I was not willing to take. That evening, I stayed in my room claiming I needed to catch up on work emails. In truth, I just could not bear to be around my family. Around 9 o'clock, I decided to take a shower and go to bed early. I left my purse on my bed where I always kept it during visits home. The car keys were inside. What I did not know was that while I was in the shower, my parents entered my room. They went through my purse, found my keys, and gave them to Brooke. By the time I emerged from the bathroom, Brooke was already gone. And so was my car. The call came at 11:45 that night. I was in bed scrolling through my phone before sleep when my mother's name appeared on the screen. An uneasy feeling washed over me as I answered. Hello, Emma, you need to come home right now. My mother's voice was high-pitched, panicked in a way I had never heard before. I am home. I am upstairs. No, I mean come downstairs. Something happened. My heart started racing. What do you mean something happened? Where is Brooke? Just come down. Please. I threw off the covers and ran downstairs in my pajamas. My parents were in the living room, both of them pale and shaken. My father had his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapidly to someone. "What is going on?" I demanded. My mother could not meet my eyes. "There was an accident. Brooke, she is okay. She is at the hospital being checked out, just some scrapes and bruises." An accident? What accident? How was Brooke driving anywhere? And then it hit me. I ran back upstairs to my room, grabbed my purse, and dumped its contents onto the bed. My wallet, my lipstick, my business cards, everything was there, except my keys. I stood frozen, staring at the empty spot where my keys should have been. My mind could not process what I was seeing, what I was understanding. They had taken them. My own parents had gone into my room, violated my privacy, and taken my keys to give to Brooke. I walked back downstairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. "Where is my car?" My voice came out flat, emotionless. My mother finally looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, we are so sorry. We thought it would be fine. We never imagined. Where is my car?" My father hung up his phone. "The tow truck is bringing it here. There was a lot of damage. I needed to see. I needed to witness the destruction with my own eyes before I could fully comprehend what had happened. So I sat on the front porch in my pajamas in the cold November night, and I waited. The tow truck arrived around 12:30 in the morning. And when I saw what it carried, I understood that my Range Rover was gone forever. The front end was completely destroyed. The hood was crumpled like aluminum foil pushed back almost to the windshield. The headlights were shattered pieces of glass and plastic dangling from the wreckage. The windshield was a spiderweb of cracks, the driver's side airbag deployed, and hanging limply. The passenger side was caved in as if the car had spun after the initial impact and hit something else. Smoke and the smell of burnt rubber still lingered in the air around it. The tow truck driver lowered my destroyed dream onto the driveway and handed my father some paperwork. He glanced at me with sympathy in his eyes, then drove away into the night. I walked slowly toward the wreckage. My legs felt numb, disconnected from my body. I reached out and touched the twisted metal where my beautiful Santorini black hood had once been. It was cold and jagged under my fingers. Inside the house, through the open front door, I could hear my mother crying and my father making phone calls. Eventually, they came outside to stand behind me. "Emma," my father began. Brooke was driving back from the party. She said the roads were slippery and she lost control. She hit a light pole, then spun into a parked car. Was she drinking? He hesitated. Her blood alcohol was 0.06, below the legal limit, but she had been drinking. Silence. I turned around to face them. "You went into my room. You went through my purse. You took my keys. After I said no, after I explained all the reasons why this was a bad idea, you did it anyway." My mother's face was wet with tears. "We never thought anything bad would happen. She promised she would be careful." I felt something break inside me. Not my heart that had already been cracked by years of being second best. This was different. This was the final snap of the last thread connecting me to the family that had never truly seen me. I walked past them into the house. I went upstairs. I packed my suitcase with mechanical efficiency, folding each item carefully despite my shaking hands. I gathered all my belongings, every trace of my presence, and I carried them downstairs. My parents were waiting at the bottom of the stairs. "Emma, please," my mother begged. "Let us talk about this." I looked at her, then at my father. I searched their faces for something, anything that might make me stay. Genuine remorse, understanding, acknowledgement that they had done something truly wrong. Instead, I saw fear of losing me, but not regret. Not the deep bone-level understanding that they had violated something sacred. "You stole from me," I said quietly. "You went into my room like I was a child, and you stole from me. You gave my property to someone who destroyed it. And now you want to talk. We will pay for the repairs," my father said quickly. "We will figure it out. The car is totaled. It cannot be repaired. Then we will help you buy a new one." I shook my head slowly. "This is not about the car. This is about the fact that you do not see me. You have never seen me. I have spent my entire life earning everything I have while Brooke has been handed everything she wants. And when I finally had something of my own, something I worked so hard for, you took it from me and gave it to her anyway." My mother started to speak, but I held up my hand. "I am leaving. Do not call me. Do not text me. I need time to process what has happened here. I walked out the front door, stepping around the wreckage of my Range Rover one last time. I called an Uber and stood at the end of the driveway, my suitcase beside me, watching the home I grew up in grow smaller and smaller in my perception. At 4 a.m, I was back in my apartment in Seattle. I sat on my couch in the darkness, still in my coat, and I did not cry. I felt emptied out, hollowed like a gourd. The tears would come later. For now, there was only silence. The first week back in Seattle was a blur of phone calls and paperwork. I reported the accident to my insurance company on Monday morning, explaining in clinical detail what had happened. The representative was sympathetic, but firm. Because Brooke was not listed as an authorized driver on my policy, the claim would likely be denied or significantly reduced. I contacted a lawyer, a friend of a friend who specialized in property damage cases. Her name was Stephanie Chen. Wait, no. Her name was Stephanie Patterson, and she reviewed the facts with professional detachment. You have grounds for a civil case against your parents, she told me. They took your property without permission and allowed an unauthorized person to use it, resulting in its destruction. That is conversion under the law. You are saying I could sue my parents. You could. Whether you want to is a different question. I thought about it for days. The idea of taking my own parents to court felt extreme, almost theatrical. But what they had done was also extreme. They had entered my private space, stolen my keys, and enabled the destruction of my most valued possession. If a stranger had done this, I would not hesitate to press charges. In the end, I decided against a lawsuit. Not because I forgave them, but because I did not want to spend months or years entangled in a legal battle with my own family. Instead, I drafted a formal letter outlining what had happened, the financial losses I had incurred, and my expectation that they would make amends. I sent copies to my parents and to my insurance company. I included the police report from the accident, the preliminary assessment from the tow company declaring the vehicle a total loss, and the original purchase documents showing the car's value. The total loss was staggering, $148,000. Accounting for the slight depreciation from the 3 months I had owned the car, the insurance company offered to cover $40,000, citing the unauthorized driver violation. That left over $100,000 in damages that I was responsible for through no fault of my own. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from my family. My mother left voicemails that alternated between tearful apologies and defensive explanations. My father sent long emails arguing that I was overreacting. Brooke texted once, a simple, "I am sorry," with a sad face emoji, as if she had spilled coffee on my shirt rather than destroyed my car. I responded to none of them. But the extended family had opinions too. Within days, my Aunt Ruth called to check on me. At first, I was grateful for her concern. Then she started talking. "Emma, honey, I know you are upset, but you need to think about what you are doing. Your mother is devastated. She says you are threatening to sue them. I am not threatening to sue. I am asking them to take responsibility for their actions. But they are your parents. Family works through problems together. You cannot just cut them off over a car. This is not about the car, Aunt Ruth." Then what is it about? I took a deep breath. It is about the fact that they do not respect me. They never have. They violated my privacy and my property because Brooke wanted something, and what I wanted did not matter. It has always been this way, and I am done accepting it. Aunt Ruth was quiet for a moment. "I think you are being very hard on them. Your mother loves you. I am sure she does, but love without respect is not enough." Similar conversations happened with my grandparents, my cousins, even some family friends who had heard about the situation through the grapevine. The narrative being spread was that I was a cold, materialistic woman who valued a car more than her family. No one seemed interested in hearing my side of the story. So I wrote a letter, a long, detailed letter that I sent to every family member who had contacted me. In it, I explained everything, not just the incident with the car, but the lifetime of imbalance that had led to this moment. The times I had been forced to earn what Brooke was given freely, the ways my achievements had been minimized while her failures were excused, the constant message implicit but clear that I was less important, less worthy of consideration, less loved. I wrote about the car too, about what it represented to me. 6 years of discipline and sacrifice, of delayed gratification and careful planning. A tangible symbol of my independence and success, reduced to scrap metal because my parents decided that Brooke's desire for it outweighed my right to protect it. The letter ended with a simple statement. I am not asking for pity or sympathy. I am asking for acknowledgement that what happened was wrong. Until my parents can offer that, along with meaningful compensation for the damage they enabled, I will not be in contact with them. This is not revenge. This is self-preservation. I sent the letter, and then I turned off my phone. For an entire week, I lived in silence. I went to work, came home, exercised, cooked dinner, and went to bed. I did not check social media or email. I existed in a bubble of my own making, giving myself space to grieve not just the car, but the family I had always hoped would someday see me clearly. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were dozens of notifications. But one message stood out. It was from my father, and it was different from all the others. Emma, I have had time to think. You are right. What we did was wrong. We should never have taken your keys. We should have respected your decision. Your mother and I want to make this right. Please call us when you are ready. I stared at that message for a long time. I was not ready to call. But for the first time since Thanksgiving, I felt a tiny spark of hope. A month passed before I was ready to speak to my family again. During that time, I focused on healing. I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Martinez, who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. Our sessions helped me understand that the problems with my family went far deeper than one destroyed car. You have been the scapegoat, Dr. Martinez explained during one of our sessions. In families with these dynamics, there is often a golden child who can do no wrong, and a scapegoat who is blamed for everything. You have been carrying this burden since childhood. But I was the successful one. I protested. I was the one who achieved things. Success does not protect you from being scapegoated. In some ways, it can make it worse. Your achievements were threatening to the established dynamic. By being independent and successful, you were implicitly criticizing the way your parents raised Brooke. Her words resonated with me deeply. I had always felt vaguely guilty for my success, as if I owed my family something in return. Now I understood that guilt was manufactured a tool to keep me compliant and giving. The phone call with my father came on a Sunday afternoon in late December. He sounded tired, older than I remembered. Emma, thank you for calling. You said you wanted to make things right. What does that mean exactly? He cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been talking. We know we cannot replace your car fully, but we want to offer you whatever we can. We have some savings, and your grandfather left a small property that we have been holding on to. We could sell it. Between everything, we can give you $85,000. I was surprised by the amount. It was not enough to cover the full loss, but it was significant. More importantly, it represented a real sacrifice on their part. That is a lot of money, I said slowly. It is what you deserve. We took something from you, Emma. Not just the car, but your trust. We want to earn it back if you will let us. I did not respond right away. I was not sure I wanted to let them back in. The wounds were still too fresh. I need to think about it. Of course. Take all the time you need. A week later, Brooke flew to Seattle. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, buzzing my intercom on a rainy Wednesday evening. My first instinct was to tell her to leave. But something in her voice sounded different, small and uncertain, in a way I had never heard before. Emma, please. I just want to talk. I promise I am not here to make excuses. I led her up. She stood in my doorway, soaking wet from the rain, her designer clothes rumpled from travel. Without her usual confidence, she looked younger, almost fragile. Can I come in? I stepped aside and let her enter. She perched on the edge of my couch, wringing her hands in her lap. I know saying sorry is not enough, she began. What I did, what we all did, it was wrong. I have been thinking about it every day since it happened. About why I felt entitled to your car in the first place. About why I was so angry when you said no. And what did you figure out? She looked up at me, her eyes wet with tears. I figured out that I have never had to earn anything in my life. Mom and Dad always gave me what I wanted. And when you had something I could not have, I could not handle it. I was jealous of you, Emma. I have always been jealous of you. I stood there absorbing her words. Of all the things I had expected, genuine self-reflection was not one of them. You were jealous of me, she nodded. You have everything figured out. Your career, your apartment, your life. You did it all by yourself. I am 24 and I still live with our parents with no real job and no plan. Every time you came home, I was reminded of how much I have failed. That does not excuse what you did. I know. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I am not asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. And I am going to change. She told me she had gotten a job, a real one, as an assistant at a marketing firm. It was entry level, and the pay was modest, but it was a start. She was planning to move out of our parents' house within the next few months and build her own life the way I had done. I also want to pay you back, she said. Not $85,000, I do not have that kind of money, but I can give you a few $100s a month. It will take years, but I want to contribute. I looked at my sister, this woman I had resented for so long, and I saw something new. Potential. The possibility of change. I am not ready to forgive you yet, I said honestly, but I appreciate you coming here. It means something. She nodded, accepting this. I understand. I am going to prove to you that I am different now, however long it takes. She left an hour later, heading back to the airport to catch a red-eye home. I stood at my window watching the rain streak down the glass, and I felt something inside me shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of acceptance. 6 months have passed since that terrible Thanksgiving night. My life looks different now in ways both visible and invisible. I used the money from my parents combined with some additional savings to buy a new car. It is not a Range Rover. It is a Lexus SUV, still nice but more practical. When I picked it up from the dealership, I did not feel the same rush of pride I had felt with the Range Rover. I realized that the car itself had never been the point. It was what it represented: my independence, my hard work, my worth. And those things did not depend on what I drove. My relationship with my parents is not what it used to be. We talk now, occasional phone calls and the odd video chat, but there is a distance that was not there before. Some of it is physical. I have not been back to Portland since last Thanksgiving, but most of it is emotional. I am no longer willing to pretend that everything is fine when it is not. I do not absorb their criticism or make myself small to accommodate Brooke. I have boundaries now, real ones, and I enforce them. My mother struggles with this new dynamic. She still makes comments sometimes about how I have changed or how I used to be so much easier to talk to, but I have learned to let those comments roll off me. Her discomfort with my boundaries is not my problem to solve. My father has been surprisingly supportive. He sends me articles sometimes about tech trends or Seattle restaurants he thinks I would like. Small gestures that feel like his way of saying he sees me now, even if it took a catastrophe to open his eyes. And Brooke, she is keeping her promises slowly but steadily. She has had her job at the marketing firm for 5 months now and just got a small promotion. She moved into a shared apartment with 2 roommates and is paying her own rent for the first time. Every month she sends me $200 via Venmo, always with a note that says, "Toward the car, sorry again." At this rate, it will take her decades to pay back her share of the damage. But that is not really the point. The point is that she is trying. We text sometimes, mostly surface-level stuff, about work or shows we are watching. It is not the sisterhood I always wished we had, but it is honest, real, built on something other than resentment and obligation. The therapy has continued. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that healing is not linear. Some days I feel strong and confident, fully in control of my life and my choices. Other days, the old patterns creep back. I catch myself minimizing my accomplishments or feeling guilty for having nice things. But I recognize those thoughts now for what they are, echoes of an old story I no longer have to believe. I have also learned that forgiveness is not a single moment, but a process. I have not fully forgiven my parents or Brooke for what they did, but I am working toward it, not because they deserve it, but because carrying anger and resentment is exhausting. I want to be free, not just from my family's expectations, but from my own bitterness. One evening recently, I was driving home from work in my Lexus. The sun was setting over Puget Sound, painting the water gold and pink. A song came on the radio that I had listened to a lot during those dark weeks after Thanksgiving, and I realized something. I was happy, not because everything was perfect. My life still had challenges and complications, but I was happy because I knew who I was. I knew what I wanted and what I would not accept. I had built a life that was mine, not just in terms of material possessions, but in terms of self-knowledge and self-respect. The car that was destroyed last Thanksgiving was expensive, but what I gained from that loss was priceless. I gained clarity, I gained boundaries, I gained the knowledge that I could survive the worst my family threw at me and come out stronger. So if you are out there watching this and you are dealing with your own family drama, your own boundaries being crossed, your own sense of self being chipped away by people who should love you unconditionally, I want you to know something. You are not crazy for wanting respect. You are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cold for protecting what is yours. You are worthy of being seen just as you are. And sometimes losing something valuable is what teaches you how valuable you really are. Thank you so much for being with me through this story today. If any part of it resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. Have you ever had to set boundaries with your family? Did they respect them, or did they push back? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story made you think, hit that like button. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes knowing we are not alone is the most powerful thing of all. Wishing you strength, peace, and the courage to protect your own light. Until next time, take care of yourselves.